Hello everyone, Seraphin here, welcome back for more Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. When I last left you guys, we were just getting started with Chapter 16, and we're going to go ahead and try to finish that today. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be accomplishable, so let's get right into it, shall we? First things first, let's take out Mr. Handaxe here. Actually, he's going to retaliate no matter what distance I attack him from, so we're just going to go right up in his face. And fling some nasty razor-sharp wind blades at him. I think that sounds fun, don't you? I've always been fascinated by the concept of wind magic in the Fire Emblem franchise because it just seems really cool and powerful, which is actually kind of funny because it's generally the weakest form of magic in Fire Emblem, but I like it quite a bit. Just the idea of flinging razor-sharp, like, air. Like, come on, that sounds so cool. Defense. Alright, I will take it, Soren. Not going to complain about you getting defense at all. Would have preferred, like, a point of strength to, you know, so you're not slowed down by your guns anymore, but, yeah, whatever. Moving on. What kind of mage is this? These are thunder mages. Well, one's a thunder, one's a fire mage. So, shouldn't have to worry too much about that. I'll just make sure I equip a ranged weapon for these chumps. Would be my Rampaya, of course. I think I mentioned I stole that from Gaiden, did I not? Or not Gaiden, but Echoes specifically. I don't even know if Rampaya was in the original Gaiden, mostly because I never played it. Because it's only in Japanese, but you know. I should make a point, however, that there are a couple of translation patches you can find for previously only Japanese Fire Emblem titles. I'm actually currently playing through Fire Emblem 4, that being Genealogy of the Holy War, and I'm enjoying that immensely. Sadly, I cannot tell you where to track down a ROM for it, because, well, quite frankly, they're so hard to find nowadays, but also because, I just probably shouldn't tell you anyway, but the translation patch for it is being done by a group called Project Naga, and it is available on, I believe, the Serenus Forest forums if you just search for it, but it is absolutely incredible, and I'm enjoying every minute of it so far. What I was going to start talking about last episode, actually, was the idea that, I don't know if I mentioned this before in this channel or not, it's been a while, but I'm actually currently DMing, for those of you who aren't familiar with tabletop RPGs, that would be dungeon mastering. I created a campaign in the setting of Path of Radiance here, and all of my characters are, they're not based off any of the ones in this game, but for story purposes I'm having certain of my PCs fill certain character roles without actually being those characters. And I'm doing a slightly different homebrew rule set. It's for the most part it's the same thing as Pathfinder, but I decided to implement the weapon triangle, for example, which I thought was really cool. And I basically custom made a lot of the weapons. For example, instead of like, oh, I have a scimitar and I have a longsword and I have a halberd and all that jazz. I'm just like, you get an iron lance, and you get a steel sword, and you get a silver axe, and all that jazz. It's like, and I basically just gave them flat weapon statistics, like, they does this much damage, their critical range is this much, every weapon is ×3 on a critical, because that's how it's supposed to be in Fire Emblem. But I also gave all the weapons weight, which is counteracted by all the units, or all the characters' strength scores, which I thought was really cool. And then if your dexterity is faster than your opponents, then you get to double them. And they're enjoying that immensely, my players so far, and I'm actually pretty proud of how I put it together. I also homebrewed the Pegasus Knight class, which my girlfriend is actually playing, and she's enjoying it immensely. In fact, she's gotten to the point where she loves that character so much, she doesn't want to go back to playing conventional Pathfinder because, well, there's no Pegasus Knights in conventional Pathfinder. But I'm actually enjoying it quite a bit. We're actually coming up, we just finished this particular chapter in the story, raiding Duke Tanas' villa, and conveniently enough, I found a really, we're having to play, for those of you who don't know, I live in Michigan, so currently, as a result of this whole national pandemic situation, most of my state is on lockdown, for lack of a better term. We're technically not allowed to go out and do a whole lot. We're really not even supposed to go out and go to other people's houses, so my Pathfinder group has no way of getting together and playing other than we're using an online app called Roll20, which I'm sure a lot of you who play tabletop RPGs are at least passingly familiar with. It's been a little bit of an uphill battle for the most part, but it's been enjoyable. We've been able to still get together and play on a weekly basis, so I can't complain about that. But I was able to find a tool for creating custom maps for Roll20. Not necessarily Roll20 specifically, but just custom grid-based maps, and it is called Dungeon Draft, I think. But I've been using that, and I've actually been faithfully recreating a lot of maps from this game using that tool, and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. So if you were looking for something to do and are unable to get out of your house for whatever reason because you're socially distancing or because you just don't want to leave your house, the combination of Roll20, being able to play campaigns with your players, even in lieu of being physically together, and being able to make custom maps, it's a lot of fun. And then we just use like Discord for voice chat and whatnot. I'll admit, it's hard to get across a lot of the more dramatic aspects of Fire Emblem as a franchise, as far as the storytelling is concerned, without actually being in person. Especially because I started this campaign in person, and a lot of the particularly dramatic points, such as Ike's father being murdered by the Black Knight, that was all done in person, and my players had a very visceral reaction to that particular encounter. At least the way that I played it, anyway. I'm not going to go and toot my own horn or anything and say... I'm actually a very budding DM. I've never DM'd a campaign before. I've played it a lot, but I've never actually DM'd one up until now. And for the most part, I think my players are enjoying what we're doing. It's just... it's the impetus on me to be a good storyteller when I've never done it before has been an interesting scenario, to say the least. But I'm enjoying it, and my players, for as far as I'm aware, are enjoying it too, and... I can't complain, but suffice to say, I'm not a very original storyteller, unfortunately. I've made attempts in the past to create my own works of fiction, and they've never really taken off. Mainly for the reason that I just don't have a great deal of inspiration. I guess I'm not cut out to be a writer, for the most part. But I do enjoy telling stories, even if they're not my own, so given that the lion's share of my players have never even touched a Fire Emblem game before, and I'm getting to communicate the story of this game to them in a situation where they don't actually have to physically play through the game, because a lot of them, like, tactics games just aren't their niche. They're one of my favorite kinds of titles, as you're well aware by this point if you've paid any attention to my content on my channel, but a lot of my friends are not super fond of this kind of game. So being able to relay that story to them without actually having to have them sit through and play and spend, 30, 40 hours playing this game is really fun for me, because I love the stories of these games. This one in particular is one of my favorites. That's why I started with it, but also because from a mechanics perspective, this one felt fairly easy to incorporate into a tabletop RPG session. Some of the other ones might have been probably a little easier. Maybe, for example, no, maybe, I guess not. I think, honestly, after all the considerations I made, this was one of the easier ones to do. Simply because, I guess there's a lot of factors for it. I can't think of the top of my head, but let's just say I put a lot of thought and effort into it. Not only because this is one of the easier ones to implement, but also because this is just one of my favorite stories. As far as Fire Emblem is concerned, this is the one that I had the most enjoyment out of wading myself through for the first time, and it's one of my favorite titles in the franchise. No questions asked. I like all the Fire Emblem games to some extent, some more than others, obviously. Like, for example, I'm not as big of a fan of Fates, but I think that's a pretty common complaint amongst the Fire Emblem community, is that Fates just wasn't all that good. But that being said, this is far and away one of my favorite ones. This one and Radiant Dawn. This one, the sequel to this being Radiant Dawn, and that is my favorite, without doubt. I love Radiant Dawn. I love the story. I love the gameplay. I love everything about it. So being able to share that with my friends and not having to put them through the quote-unquote suffering of having to actually play it is something that I'm very proud of and very happy to be able to do for them. And it's just fun being able to interact with my friends and being able to do that and play this universe. And it's what we do. It's what we're going to do anyway. I mean, we've been RPGing together for... I mean, I've been part of this group for probably 5 years at this point, which doesn't seem like a lot, considering I have friends that I've known for a lot longer, but I actually met this group through a coworker who ended up becoming one of my best friends that I still interact with on a regular basis, and he got me introduced to this group of friends, and they've been some of the best people that have ever been a part of my life, ever. And I'm not saying that with any exaggeration. I absolutely love these people. They're the best people I've ever had the pleasure of being around for an extended period. So if any of you are currently watching or listening or anything like that, which I believe some of you might be, this is not just me, you know, trying to gloat about how awesome I think you guys are. You generally are a massive part of my life, and I love every single one of you. So sorry to go off on the high horse there, but at any rate, let's get back to what I was talking about here. I love RPGs, I love tactics games, and finding a way to incorporate both into a single platform was just butter. It was absolutely just butter for me, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. So, making a custom class for that game, however, was a little bit of an interesting situation. I didn't just make a Pegasus Knight, I actually made a Wyvern Rider too, because it's something that I noticed. There's no, like, something you see a lot as a staple of this franchise is, like, flying units. Like, you've got Pegasi, you've got Wyverns. In this particular installment, you've got Lagoos that can fly and turn into beasts and whatnot. And there already were a lot of mechanics in Pathfinder for a lot of those different things. Like, shapeshifters already exist in Pathfinder and in D&D, and I'm like, that should be really easy to implement. I'm sad to say that I didn't allow my PCs to become Lagoos, even though I think a couple of them might have wanted to, but for the purposes of my storytelling, it wouldn't have made a great deal of sense. So maybe if I decide to go through and do Radiant Dawn's campaign too, I'll allow them to become Lagoos. I think a lot of them would really appreciate that opportunity. But it's just been absolutely incredible to be able to do that. And but that being said, making the flying classes was a little bit challenging, only because, as you're aware, if you've played any of these games or watched me play them, flying units have a great deal of versatility and a great deal of freedom in what they're able to do, because they can move around so much. They're not affected by terrain. They can just go anywhere they want. They can weave in and out of the battle and just poke at people and run away. And I was like, that's going to be really interesting to incorporate. But the way I did the Pegasus Knight was I tried to keep it as faithful to the in-game source material as possible. So the Pegasus Knight class that I made is, well, A, they can fly, which is atypical for most D&D/Pathfinder situations. But also, I made them inherently have magical resistance. So enemy spellcasters are less likely to be able to even affect them, let alone hurt them with spells, which I feel like was missing from Pathfinder D&D. Like, a lot of spellcasters in that universe are just really overpowered, because there's a lot of really good spells in Pathfinder and D&D, and I'm like, well, there's got to be some way to, like, counteract that, because if you're, as a DM, throwing a bunch of spellcasters at your players, they're going to get wrecked after a while, especially if they're just getting hit with fireballs left and right and whatnot. So I'm like, why not make a dedicated anti-spellcaster, which is what the Pegasus Knight really kind of is in this franchise. They've all got really high resistance, they're really fast, they don't get doubled, they're easily able to dodge stuff, but they have their vulnerabilities, they're weak to bows. So anybody that uses bows against the Pegasus Knight class in my campaign takes double damage, which the one person playing the Pegasus Knight in my campaign was a little salty about at first, but given that the party is aware of that vulnerability, they're able to come and cover for it, which I was also really happy to see. They're like, oh, it's a bow, kill him before it gets to the... It's so cool. Being a DM has been an interesting experience. But anyway, so no one's playing the Wyvern class that I made, unfortunately, but I made it... That one I did take quite a lot of creative liberties on, as far as deviating them from the source material. I gave them like a corrosive breath attack, almost like an actual dragon in D&D, just because I thought that sounded cool. And the Wyverns are pretty darn close to dragons, especially in this. I think there's a much finer line between dragons and Wyverns in Fire Emblem as opposed to any other general mediums. Like, historically, it's my understanding that Wyverns only are supposed to have, what, 2 legs and also have wings, whereas dragons have 4 legs and have wings. But in this game, you see someone like Jill who's on a Wyvern, and it's pretty obvious that her dragon's got 4 legs but also has wings, so it's almost like she's riding a dragon and not a Wyvern, but they just call it that. So I'm wondering if whoever localized or whoever created the Wyvern riding class in this game just didn't know the difference. Because I'm guessing it's a more, I'm gonna guess it's a more finicky distinction that people don't really generally care to make, or just don't bother, or aren't aware of. Maybe I'm just one of those weirdos that notices these differences and has to apply them to everything, which I do on a regular basis. But I don't know. Anyway, I'm blathering a little bit here, but suffice to say, I made a really cool Wyvern class and nobody wanted to play it, and I was like, oh, all right, well, at least someone's playing the Pegasus, which I think is honestly a better piece of construction on my part. The idea of being resistant to magic, the idea of being able to flying around and hurt things, And I also made it so that they're particularly effective against other flying units. Because, generally speaking, in the course of the game, you'll understand that the Holy Guard, the Pegasus Knights, are very, very confident against, like, Day and Wyvern Riders, for example. Because they're like, oh, compared to them, we're much more nimble, we're much more able to, you know, counteract them. So I'm like, alright, well, if there's going to be enemy Wyvern Riders, why not have somebody that's good against them? So that's what the Pegasus is supposed to do, I suppose. And again, I'm enjoying it immensely. I'm sure I've mentioned that a few dozen times at this point, but I guess if anybody's interested, I can always put up I made like a custom rule set basically for incorporating the weapon triangle, for adding the Pegasus Knight class. Did a couple other things like custom weapons. It's a lot. I actually put a lot of time and effort into putting this all together. So if anybody's interested in digging into that a little more, I'd be happy to share it. I'm not sure how many people that watch my channel are particularly interested in tabletop RPGs in addition to Fire Emblem. But, I mean, if you're into that, sure, I'll absolutely share that with anybody who wants to know more. I'm not going to say that I'm an expert by any means, because as I said, I'm a fledgling DM. But I like to think I know how to put together mechanics pretty well. I've done it before for other things. Not on this scale before, but certainly if anybody's got some ideas for tweaks or improvements, I'm open to that too. I might have made the Wyvern a little overpowered, but seeing as I've not actually seen them in combat yet, because nobody's playing one, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm really glad that Ike... Holy crap, okay, Ike's only hitting that guy for 1. I'm really glad Ike is tanky enough to not take a great deal of damage from an Armor Knight with a spear. Alright, cool. It's like the 2 things you need to work on is your HP and your strength. He's got a lot of resistance. Did you see that? He has like 14 resistance? Or 12 or something? It's a lot. Got more than most mages on my team. Forgot I gave Neff an advantage. It's been a while since I've gotten back into this and gotten to the swing of things. I forgot a lot of the choices I made in some of the earlier episodes. So apologies if I'm still working on taking the training wheels off again, but gotta get back into the swing of things. It's been a while, and I've been meaning to get back to this for a long time. I'm sure a lot of people who are regulars to the channel were wondering why, even after I came back from my hiatus, there was still such a long gap between releasing content, and that's just because I've been really sick the last few weeks. I don't know what came over me. It's not the COVID, I'm pretty sure. I didn't have any symptoms like that. I just felt cruddy, and generally it was really hard for me to be able to have the motivation to do anything. Like, I've been working from home as a result of the lockdown in my state, which has been nice, but at the same time, it's kind of made me a little complacent. It's been really hard for me to get up and actually do things. And being sick on top of that, I wasn't feeling it. So that's a lot of that's on me, and I apologize for keeping you guys in the dark about that for so long. So I'm hoping that coming back in full swing like this will help make it up to you, I suppose. But needless to say, this whole pandemic situation has been affecting everyone a little bit differently. Some people have been taking to it easier than others. I have been handling it reasonably well, only because I'm already an introvert and I already don't leave the house very much. Except when I have to go, you know, find food or go to work. But since I'm not going to work, I'm leaving the house even less now. So my apologies for this whole situation having a particularly detrimental effect on my ability to do what I committed to doing. I will make an effort to be better about it in the future going forward. And if there's any substantial developments, like, oh, I happen to get blasted with the plague or something, I'll be sure to let you guys know, so that you're not left in the dark about it. Alright, oh, that's right. So wind is effective against Jill because she's a flyer. That being said, even an effective weapon is only 11 damage. That's not substantially high. But I still don't particularly want her to get blasted with it. So I'm wondering if I should send someone in to soften this guy up a little bit. I just realized I didn't give Kieran a ranged weapon. That's definitely an oversight on my part. How did I miss that? I feel a little silly now. I'll take out this Armor Knight with someone who's a little better equipped than a guy with a flimsy little iron sword. The one thing Armor Knights don't have going for them is a decent resistance stat, and the fact that they're slow, but usually if your defenses are solid, it doesn't matter how fast you are. You just put the Armor Knight in front of everybody and let the enemies break themselves against him. A lot of fun. This enemy sniper has to go. Who should have the honor of disabling said sniper? I want to see if I can let Jill do it. But her hit rate probably... it's not too bad, actually. Let's see if I can soften this guy up a little bit, shall I? That would probably do. As long as I don't crit him again like I did that Armor Knight for a whopping 3 damage. At least I did something to him. There we go. Good job, Ike. The nice thing about Ike is that early on he's able to... He can take people out by himself if you really want him to, but he's really nice just giving him some lighter weapons and letting him set up kills for other people that need the experience more. Because Ike's not going to have a trouble at all getting what he needs as far as experience goes. Oh geez, that kill me if it crits, but I guess we'll have to just hope that I hit him first. I think snipers get a slight... Oh wow, I crit first. Look at that. Forget you, pal. I crit instead. You don't get to. I think in this game, I know for a fact in Radiant Dawn they do, but I think in this game snipers actually get a slight built-in increase to their critical hit rate. Kind of like Swordmasters in the last 2 games that I played on this channel. Which is weird because in none of those examples, they don't provide any like evidence of that critical bonus. In Blazing Sword or in Sacred Stones, you don't actually get to see any indication that Swordmasters have a higher crit rate. You just know they do. It doesn't outright tell you, but you know they do. Let's have Kieran lob a... Not Kieran, Oscar lob a javelin at this guy. Oscar can take the hit. I'll see if we can have Kieran clean this mage up. He's an awfully hardy target. He's awfully fast. Probably because he's only using a wind tome and his speed's not being affected. Those thunder and fire tomes tend to weigh a bit more. We'll have Kieran come in here and save the day. He's not really saving anything. We set up a kill for him, but you know, it's alright. Kieran likes to think of himself as some kind of superhero. We can, I guess, treat him like one, for lack of a better term. So I noticed that there are some guys coming in from the entrance to try to ambush me, but I'm not particularly worried about them. There's some pretty rank-and-file soldiers down here, and they're not going to be in trouble, so... I'm staying out of Devdin's range because in order to recruit Devdin, I think you need to use either Ike or you need to use, like, Mist or Soren. And the reason for that is because he reacts to children being on the battlefield, and he's not fond of that. And as a result, he chooses not to continue fighting and joins them instead. So we'll get to see that moment. Like I said, I know for a fact Mist can recruit him. I believe Soren can as well, like Tormod can. And obviously Ike, because Ike basically is a child at this point. Alright, Neffany, level 19. Show me what you got, girl. Alright, alright. Skill and speed. I mean, that's what she normally gets. Would have preferred some strength, but... she's on track to cap strength, or not strength, but skill and speed as soon as she gets level 20. That'll be fantastic if she does that. I would have nothing to complain about if she were to make that happen. Neffany is absurdly fast. She's faster than most sword units, like speedy sword units, and she wields a lance, so there's that. Alright, move up Boyd here, just in case Devdin decides to come running at me. I don't think he plans on doing that, but you never know. I might actually have to draw him out in order for someone to come talk to him, because his movement is further than most of my guys, only because he is a promoted unit. So what I might do is draw him out with somebody... Maybe Boyd? How much does it spear weigh? 18? So he's only got 9 effective speed. I think Boyd would ruin him. With an iron axe, he's got 23 attack. Good lord. That becomes 12, 13? Okay, so I won't kill him, but darn near. Jeez. And I don't want to just put Ike in his range and hope that he doesn't kill him. Although I might have to at this point. I'll just have Ike here with the iron sword ready to go. We'll have Soren down here to talk to him just in case things get hairy. Have Gatry finish off this priest. I feel kind of bad killing the priests because they don't fight back because they can't. And they're just kind of but if you don't get rid of them, then they make your life miserable by just healing all the enemies and getting in your way and being a problem. Speaking of, we've got, and speaking of getting away and being a problem, we got an enemy thief here who's going to immediately make a beeline for that door and loot all the juicy treasure inside, which we don't want to happen. I'm going to see if I can push my forces forward quicker to get rid of them. Let's have Jill mop up some soldiers first. Looks like she's got enough damage to take this guy out, as long as he doesn't crit me. Let's maybe the other guy instead. Thunder Magic has a higher crit rate, so we don't want to... Oh, this will work. Actually, much better. Let's do that. I don't want to risk Jill getting destroyed by a stray Thunder Bolt. Oh, come on! Really? He's right there, Jill. Ugh. Oh well. I guess stuff happens. Who do we want to finish that person off with? I guess Kieran needs a kill. Yeah, that'll work. Actually, I could just let Kieran go for the Thunder Mage, right? How much resistance does he have? Not enough. Jeez, that's a lot of damage. What is your resistance anyway, Kieran? 1. Alright, well, that explains a lot. I guess I'll just have him finish off the Fire Mage instead. That is one glaring issue with Kieran, is his god-awful resistance. It can be patched up, but not supremely easily, so I guess we'll have to wait and see how he turns out. Oh, here's a level up, speaking of which. I guess it doesn't need resistance, per se. Could you get strength, please? Are you kidding? Okay, just get nothing, I guess. Thanks, Kieran. If you keep that up, you're not going anywhere, pal. What level did I get him? Like level 10 or something? And he's not really grown very much. Man, I might just need to stop using him. I hate to say it, because he's normally really good to me, but he's just not pulling his weight. Could level up my magic ranking on this guy just from attacking him, but is that really worth it at this point? No, let's heal up Jill. I'm gonna leave that other mage for her, I think. That mage is probably really slow, however, and I'm worried that anybody I sick on him other than Jill's gonna one-round him and kill him. Jeez, they all have a chance to potentially just crit and kill me. You know what? Why don't we just clear him out? Okay, even Oscar or even Boyd can't do it. I bet you Neffany probably can. Nope. Man, Thunder Mages are a problem, let me tell you. I guess I'll just have to wait. I'll stick a mage on him. About that. I'll use my own mages to deal with the enemy mages. It seems like the most prudent course of action. I gotta have my riders ready to move in to intercept that thief over there on the left-hand side. Here comes Devdin. What's he doing? He's attacking Ike. Alright, well. Devdin will try to restrain himself. Oh, jeez. Whatever. Sorry, Devdin. He has a very cool color palette, though, with that bright orange there. I do like that quite a bit. Alright, moving on. We got more of these suckers down here. I don't think that mage that I'm lining up on is going to do a whole lot. Okay, so I think Soren can talk to Devdin to recruit him. Yep. So Devdin is like, youngsters like you aren't supposed to be fighting. Devdin is not supposed to be anyone. Devdin talks in the third person. Was imprisoned for looking at the flower garden. Punishment for trespassing is to work for an entire year without pay. Huh, that sucks. Telling me this so that I will let you go. Devdin does not fight children. We pay you for your services. That would be an honor. Please allow Devdin to join you. I expect you to do your best. Devdin is a very hard worker. So now we get Devdin. He's alright. He's a halberdier. He's promoted already. And he's okay. Neffany's better in almost every respect, except for maybe... he's got really high luck. Wow, holy smokes. He's got 16 luck. Starting out, pre-promotes generally have more balanced stats anyway. So at the current rate, he's going to be a little bit better all around than Neffany, but she is so much faster than him. It's not even funny. Completely use him in the dust. So... I don't generally use Devdin. He's alright. You can use him if you want. He's not bad by any stretch, but Neffany just always ends up being better for me, so I just tend not to use him. But you could use them both if you really wanted to. Halberdiers are a good class. He's got Serenity, which is an interesting skill. It just halves the biorhythm effects. It's the same thing that Riss has, the healer. But, he's alright. I probably won't use him for the playthrough, but feel free. He's not, like I said, he's not bad. Feel free to use him if you want to. There's not really any bad characters in this game that I find. Like some Fire Emblem games, there's some characters that are just overt not good. This is not one of those games, I don't think. I'm hard-pressed to think of anybody who's just abjectly bad. I guess a case could be made that Mia's not great in this game. I wish she was better. Her strength, however, is not up to par, unfortunately. But I still use her sometimes. She makes a perfectly reasonable swordmaster. She just has to get crits a lot. Oh yeah, magic. I'm gonna use my own mage to whittle down this mage. I bet you I'm stronger than... Oh yeah, look at that. Much better. So even if he crits me, it's only gonna be 15 damage. It'd be cool if I crit him first, like I did, you know, with Jill a minute ago, but the very awful crit rates are not likely to happen. Okay, goodbye, sir. Level up. Alright, I think that's C rank in Lightning. Yep, sweet. Perfect. And then Jill can move in for the kill now. Yep, absolutely. As long as she hits and doesn't get obliterated in the process, that would be very unfortunate. Do not want to have to deal with that. Perfect. Alright, goodbye. Silly Thunder Mages and their less than 0 crit rates. You know, you might be joking. It's like, oh, it's only an 8% chance. What are the odds? Like, it's a lot better than you think. It's happened to me far more often than I care to admit. There we go. Look at that. Speed, defense, and resistance, of all things. Can't complain about that. Thankfully, Jill is turning out alright, because if Jill turned out bad this playthrough, I was going to be upset. I'm going to keep trying to give Kieran a shot here. Let's see how he turns out. I imagine once he promotes, he'll be about ready. Thankfully, his speed is good. It's really easy to salvage characters if they've got really good speed. His strength is passable. It's not, like, awful. And he's using the strongest weapon type. So, again, he's perfectly salvageable, Kieran. As long as he starts getting some decent level ups and not getting absolutely nothing like he did that last time. I'm still salty about that. If you get a blank level up like that, it's very detrimental for a number of reasons. A, because, well, you're not getting more stats. And B, like, it's just like you're wasting an entire turn of potential. Or an entire level of potential that you're just not getting anything out of. Even a point of hit points is good, because hit points are never a bad thing to have in this game. But blank level ups, especially at that low of a level when you haven't capped anything, it should never happen. It just shouldn't. There is no character in this game that has that enough growth rates where they regularly get blank level ups. Like, even some of the worst growth rates, unless you're playing one of the older games where growth rates just aren't good in general. Like, everything before FE6. Like, number 4, number 5, all the ones before that, there are characters that have growth rates, like, no higher than, like, 10 or 20%. Gaiden, I think, was also fairly infamous for that. But even under those circumstances, you're generally speaking gonna get something. You know what I mean? So when you have a game like this where the growth rates are generally really high across the board, and you get a blank level up like that on a character who's supposed to have pretty decent growth rates, like Kieran's got pretty good growth rates, and you just get nothing, it's an absolute kick in the face. Not fun. Alright, we're going to have Ike around to be able to seize when the time comes. That guy's going to open the door for us, but he's not going to get much further than that, because I'm going to put him out of his misery first. I should probably position Gatchery in a way as to deter this oncoming wave of soldiers. Or somebody with decent defense. I could just put Kieran over there, couldn't I? I think Kieran is tanky enough and dodgy enough to not have to worry about getting hit very much. Not sure why that archer went for a guy with a javelin. I think he had someone he could have shot at that wouldn't have retaliated, but who the heck am I to argue? You know what? Yeah, we'll go ahead and put Kieran over here. He's got 13 defense. That's pretty solid. These guys have 18 attack, -1 because they're at disadvantage. So yeah, they won't do a whole lot to him. And he's probably fast enough to double, I would imagine. Even with a steel axe, would he though? Because he's losing 4 speed from that. How much speed do these guys have? 5? Okay, that's pathetic. That one doesn't lose any of it. So 9 speed and... So he'll double the steel lance guy, but not the iron lance. That could be okay. I think I'll let him... Yeah, I think I'll do it. Let's go. Let's give it a shot, man. Prove your worth to me, Mr. Kieran. And we'll have Soth come over here and crack open some more treasure chests. As mentioned, this thief is not long for this world because I don't want him to be in my way. So let's see if I can just one-shot poke him with Oscar here. I think thieves look really strange in this game. Not gonna lie. Like, they just kind of like... They're hunched over and they're like, oh, I'm ready to stab at somebody. But they don't really stab. They're just gonna swing their knives. So I guess that's one thing. Alright, so we're going to have Oscar be waiting around here, but this is taking a little longer than I wanted it to, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up this chapter in the next episode instead. So, sorry for those of you hoping for it to be finished right away. It took a little longer than I wanted, but we'll finish it up next time. So until then, thank you very much for watching up to this point. I really do appreciate it. We will finish Chapter 16 for sure in the next episode and move on to other juicy story elements that I'm really excited to show you guys. So stay tuned for that. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I would also very much appreciate that. Feel free to leave a comment and a like on this video if you are so inclined, and I will catch you next time. So until then, this has been Seraphin. Stay classy, internets.